Hey y'all, welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Colton here with Brandon. Couple of tournaments to get caught up on, as well as our rounds from Chicago. We will start in Germany at the Cologne Regional, 127 players. And I think everyone decided that because it was Slime's last hurrah before the ban hit, that they were going to take Slime. We're going to see a lot of it in this video. Top two, both Slime. Winner was 8 Pants. Second place was Salvage Pants, Mila Murin. Third place was Hendrickson, and fourth place, JoJo's. Two different choice combos, and the pants. JoJo's is one of those things that just kind of like randomly shows up. I think I have it in my head that JoJo's is still like bad from the first set, when it clearly isn't as bad as it used to be.
Sure.
At the end of this card's attack, pay 1, pitch 2. If you have experience 6, burn 4. And if you reversed a character, burn 1. Like, I don't think that's bad.
It's a slightly more powerful Xion from Slime top end. So it's like very much similar to that.
But yeah, that's a fun deck. Came in fourth in Germany. Rest of top 8, Slime, Quince, Chainsaw Man, and Hendrickson. Very much the usual suspects. Rounding out the rest of top 8, the 8 standby Nino list has come out that has new stuff in it. So this was the first weekend for that, which is, I think, the set that was getting the most attention, or the deck that was getting the most attention from the new Quint stuff. Running out top 16, Butchie the Rock, Ruby Choice Standby, Slime with the Shuna level 1 into Mirren, 8 Pants Slime, Standby Ruby, Freerin, Kelly Marine Hololive, and then this kind of interesting Quinceless Yotsuba Itsuki Bar Salvage, which you don't see a whole lot of interplay between the different archetypes within Quince, but the level 1 combo targets anything, and the level 3 combo doesn't care about name either, so it allows you to mix these in a little bit more than you otherwise would.
No, absolutely. And I think that being able to have that kind of real flexibility in Quince is a really interesting deck build that you're really not going to see all that often, just because of how synergistic their own like specific girls are. To see this kind of interaction between the two is very rare. So I can definitely see this kind of throwing people off when they're trying to play into it.
Oh yeah, if I sat across from this, I wouldn't know what I was looking at. I'd be like, what is this pile? The new Yotsuba package is quite nice. The bar stuff, it's a whole lot better than the old bar stuff. So definitely a playable package for sure. Moving on to Chicago, we were at this one, 230 players. Top 4, Slime, Cali Aqua Hololive, Hendrickson, and another 8 Pants Slime. We had a total of 6 Slimes in top 16. Didn't I say last time something like Slime isn't getting, 4 to 6, in top 8. It's not, dominating these individual events. Of course, the week after I say that is the week when it does start doing that, and you see, 3 in top 8 in Germany and 6 in top 8 in Rosemont, or 5 in top 8 in Rosemont, excuse me. I think part of that is last hurrah. People were like, oh, well, this isn't going to be playable after this weekend in this state, so it's not going to be like this, so I'm going to give it one more go. But obviously, the set on its own is just good, and I also think Slime is a little more popular in the States than it is in some other places. But yeah, the rest of top 8 is 3 more Slimes, 2 8 Pants, 1 Mila Murin, and then Freerin. Want to circle back to second place real quick. This was Riaz, who bubbled in, was the 16th seed at 5 and 2, took Cali Aqua. And if you look at this list, the list looks like the Gura list, but instead of Ames, you have the 2-1 Aqua, and instead of Guras, you have the 3-2 Aqua. But you could absolutely take those 7 out and put in the Ames and the Guras from the old Gura package, and it's basically the same deck. Runs a couple fewer soul triggers because the top end isn't dependent on soul triggers, so you can get away with running more stuff that doesn't have the trigger. But we have talked a lot about how good Gura is. I don't think we've talked a lot about how good Kali is. Like, Kali is actually an extremely good level 1 combo. When you run all of these triggers, you are very rarely going to get anything less than a 1. And if you hit a 1, it's like, okay, I go get my Brainstormer or I go get my Kali back, right? You also have all these really good zeros. So, like, getting your CX swap or your drop search or your hand to stock or whatever off of a Kali that you more or less whiffed doesn't feel too bad. But this package wants to get its level 2s, so hitting 2, which is a very common outcome, very easy. Hitting 3 means you just go get the Aqua in hand or you get your healer in hand. It's a very good combo. You get to mill out 12 cards, get through that first deck, which I think is a thing that is underappreciated. Like, we have so many perfect fixing combos that search or salvage, and I think sometimes people forget that milling through deck 1 is actually really important for compression purposes. So I think the Kali is great. I think it makes sense to build something with this package. And I think the Aqua itself is also relatively easy to triple. It has two different effects. You can either, on attack, stock shuffle 10. Your opponent returns the top 10 cards of their stock to their deck, shuffles, puts the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. So obviously, if the stock is less than 10, which it normally will be, it's just a stock shuffle everything, which is good for decompression. If your opponent is, 2 out of 4, all of a sudden they're, 2 out of 14, or maybe 3 out of 14, depending on their stock situation. Pretty good. It also has on attack ditch 2 burn 3. So you can do the stock shuffle and 2 burn 3s for 6 stock and 4 cards. And that's if you don't have the 2/1s on the board anywhere, right? Because the 2/1s are a change effect. And you can start doing this at level 3 and it's on pants, so you can effectively loop this, right? Get this down at level 2, try to protect it with the counter. I think this is solid. I think that probably is like the line is to try to loop it, hit your pants again, do it again at 3, because it's a very cheap package, all things considered. And it plays the regular healer instead of the stock healer because it wants to keep up hand.
I think it's definitely really good.
And obviously, if you hand 50 good Hololive cards to a two-time world champion, good things happen. So he was already going back to Worlds, so he didn't even need this one.
Yeah, he'd already previously won a tournament, so I think if I remember right, all top four actually made it to or got the invite. So
Right, that was something that I wanted to bring up is if that's true, which I heard it was, that is, I believe, a different policy than before. It used to be that if someone who had already gotten an invite got another invite, that the other, like the excess invite, as it were, was essentially scrapped. So inviting all of top 4 is a welcome change. I like that.
well, and I think it also encourages him not to just throw, right? It's so that way he doesn't just go for fourth and then
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing it out now, right? Like, yeah, I think that's better for it's better for tournaments, it's better for gameplay. It allows players to continue to play, right? Like, you were de-incentivized from trying to, if you were already a regional champion, trying to make it 2, because then you're just kind of taking somebody else's spot. And obviously, like, you earn it and all that, but it's still there's still some bad feelings with that. Like, that doesn't feel amazing. So the fact that they've done that is good for competitive play, especially in a big tournament like Illinois. They expanded Top Cut, but they did not expand the number of Worlds invites, right? So, like, we have 6 top 16 cut. You're still only getting 3 invites out of a field of 230, whereas other tournaments you're getting 3 out of a field of 60, right? So, like, it's good, especially in these larger tournaments, to not have one of those invites go to waste. So let's move on. Both you and I were in Chicago,
yep.
and we've got rounds to talk about. So, do you want to lead off?
Sure, I can lead off. That's fine. I was playing Eight Pants Slime. I brought it just because it's also like last hurrah of slime for whatnot for that buy card. So I was able to kind of bypass that first round. Going into round two, I somehow managed to pair into like the only anti-spiral player there, which is really funny to see one in the wild like this. Which kind of felt bad playing into this matchup because it was very one-sided very quickly. And I think we both knew where it was going from like turn two, but we had to like play it out to get there. I did take the win on that one. Jumping into round three, I played into eight standby quints. This was playing with the old top end as the top end of choice here. But a lot of the same new additions from this new set. I was able to close out that game and push on. Round four, I played into Slime in the Mirror. I played actually against a guy from Michigan, which was really cool to play into. This one was a little more back and forth because we kind of knew what each other's deck was doing. He was playing the Salvage level one combo and into Mirren. So like we kind of had a general idea of how the game was like the flow of the game was going to go. I started falling behind in resources. I had a chance to be able to kind of come back near the end, but on one of my Mirren turns, I neglected to stock charge as much as I should have, and that ended up costing me in the end to push a little extra. I don't think that I would actually close that game out, even if I had that additional stock there. It would have been closer, but I think I only would have put him to about 3-6 as opposed to actually fully closing him out. So he definitely got the win there. So I fell 3-1. I paired into eight standby quints again. Again, new stuff, but this time the new top end, which is actually a difference maker here because the burn fours were just enough to be lethal for the end game here. Because of how the game went, I was behind really early in the damage race against standby quints, which is not great. Climax flooded early and just was not did not start off well. I was able to stabilize it to at least push for end. The Nexel counter actually came into play here. I did what I could to play around it, but ultimately I needed to get a vanilla swing in, which would have stuck because he was out the climaxes, but needed to actually get the vanilla in, and he had enough for the next little counter, so he was actually able to survive at 3-6 to close out the game that way. So I fell to 3-2. At that point, I know I'm basically out, so kind of just finished out anyway. Played into eight pants quints, so the Miku build. Icy Tails whiffed, and my damage stuck. Was basically how that game kind of really went with that one. The game was pretty straightforward in that kind of matchup. Not really much else to go off of there. The last round of the day, I ended up actually pairing into Braden in the final round, and he brought eight salvage build for Hololive. We took it pretty casual at that point because we knew between the two of us and our where we were at that neither of us were going to get in, so we pretty rough starts, both of us. Braden got it, so Braden ended up being 5-2 on the day, and I ended up 4-3. Fun fact: he actually played into Riaz earlier in the day, and that was one of his losses. And based off the numbers, because Braden won, that was enough to edge in Riaz to make top 16 cut. So I thought that was an interesting little tidbit there. But outside of that, that was our rounds for me. What about you, Colton?
I decided that if I was only going to play in one event this season, that I was going to play my favorite deck. So I took 8 Bar Dragon Maid, and it went very well. For those of you that maybe don't know or don't remember, 8-bar Dragon Maid, the level 1 bar is a on attack top check 3 add anything, and it's got some tools to make it easy to loop. So the goal is to kind of loop that as long as you can into the level 3, which is an Elu. At the beginning of climax phase, pay 1, and it gets cancel burn X, X equal to its soul. The card has a 3 soul base, so it's effectively swing for 4, cancel burn 4. It also has a comboless on attack top check if it's a character burn 1, which also is affected by that cancel burn. So if you swing, reveal a character, and that 1 cancels, you effectively get burn 4, swing for 4. So round 1 played in the 8 standby Ayakashi Triangle. It's the top end that has the combo that looks for the other level 3 on the board and then does burns at the Encore set based on how many of those are on the board. I was able to drop the 2-1 Elma that yeets to memory on one of his, not the combo 3-2, but the other one that gives the burns to the combo 3-2. And I was able to just kind of yeet that away into memory forever. And that ended up being the difference. I got double Elalu, did not close. He came back with his top end, but he only had one copy of the other 3-2 on the board, so I canceled out, and he didn't have enough, so I was able to turn around and finish. The 2-1 Elma is extremely good. It's still just an incredibly good cracked profile that people don't know it's there. So round 2, played in the 8 Pants Freerin. I ate everything the first half of the game. I don't think I canceled anything until I got to 3-2. He was at 1-6, I think, when I untapped at 3-2. I pushed him to 2-6. He did not clock himself, did not go into 3 to try to get finisher. Didn't close me. I turned around and closed him with Ilalu. Round 3, played into Kanata Mume, and frankly, he bricked. He just never got his stuff together, and I just kept slamming CXs and pushing damage, because again, that's what Dragon Maid does. And he just didn't have enough turns. He drew poorly off the top, and it was hard for him to recover. Round 4, I played into another Kanata Marine. This was my first loss. Kanata Marine is a really hard matchup for me on this list because Kanata both compresses and heals. And if I cannot get the Kanatas off the board with the 2-1 Elma, then he can just kind of loop it. So he was able to do that, and I had to try to close from 2-2. I was like one card short the whole game. I only had some of my end game, and he was at 2-2, so I wasn't able to close him. So that game wasn't particularly winnable, I don't think, the way that it went. Tough matchup. Round 5, I played into Standby Pants, and he just canceled. Like, sometimes you just have games where he cancels, and when you slam a climax and you're swinging for 2-3-2 pretty much every turn, when he cancels 2 of those every turn, you just don't do damage. And obviously it's Slime, right? So Slime wants to play into a compression game, and he played Mirin and all that. So, but he got a couple extra cancels in the first half of the game, and when you're Slime and you get extra cancels in the first half of the game, it makes the second half of the game so much easier because you basically get a free turn because you're already going to get some cancels because of the compression that your deck already wants to do. So I went to 3-2 after round 5. My goal coming in was 4-3. I was just kind of here to, play a deck that I liked and wasn't going to worry about it too much. I played it to 8 Pants Slime. We were just going back and forth. It was very close. He pushes me into 3-6. I have 2 cards left in the deck. I don't run a healer because the healers in Dragon Maid are bad. They're very bad. So you're better off just not running the healers because they're not worth the stock they cost and the other resources they cost. They're not good. So I draw. I'm down to 1 card in the deck. I have Stock Swap and 2 Ilalu in my hand. He is, I want to say, like 6 out of 20 something, 6 out of 22, 6 out of 23. So, like, reasonably compressed, right? His compression's fine. I hit him with the 3-2 stock swap, which also has a salvage on it. So he stock swaps, I think, 9. I go, and off of my salvage, I take my shuffle back. I play my shuffle back. It gives me 2 cards back into the deck, so I choose 2 clean targets without soul triggers. Because I think I need to close him from, what was the number? 2-5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2-5 I needed to close him from. So I shuffle back 2. I have a free side now, but that doesn't end up mattering. Because I only have 2 swings. So what I could do, and this is something I've done before, actually, this is how I beat Kit in trios in spring, was on my last attack of the game, you just reveal the card before the trigger happens. So if you reveal, and it's a character, you get your burn one, and I actually hit him to lethal there, and then that was it. That was the end of the game before the actual trigger and my card left the deck, which would have, leveled me. In this game, the math was a little bit different. I knew I needed 9 damage, so I need 4-1-4, right?
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I've got 2 4s with cancel burn 4 because I know I shuffled back clean, so they're both going to swing for 4 probably. I don't know what the other card is in my deck. And obviously the burn ones are going to happen. So like I feel decent about it. So I attack with the first one, reveal, burn 1 sticks, swing for 4, cancels, and then hits the cancel burn. So he's at 3-3 now. Second attack, I reveal, it has a soul trigger. It's actually the 2-1 Elma. So I opt not to do the burn because I just need 4 to stick, right? Like the burn one isn't going to do me any good unless it cancels, and I don't like the math on that. So it's swing for 5, cancel burn 5, and he just eats the 5 off the top. I got 4 on the stock swap. Sometimes you just get there. But I think that one of the underrated things about decks and top ends in Weiss is you need to play something that will get you there, or has a chance to get you there. There are plenty of games where you have a 0% chance or a 5% chance of winning just because your top end does not have the juice. But when you play a top end that has the juice, and when you play the cards that can do the weird stuff and, pull out those tough wins, your odds of victory go up substantially, right? A game that was functionally unwinnable becomes winnable because you've chosen to play something that has a higher ceiling. And when you know how to play a deck, like this is a deck I've played hundreds of times, right? I'm super familiar with this. I know pretty much all the lines. When you know what your deck can do, and it has a high ceiling, and you know how to maximize that ceiling, it becomes dangerous. That's a game that Dragon Maid wins that almost no other set pulls off. And I think that that matters when it comes to like deck selection and when we talk about what decks are good and what decks aren't. Because it's not just about like, oh, you got your stuff, you hit your numbers, whatever. Yes, you did, but you need to play something that puts victory inside the realm of possibility. And that's something that Dragon Maid just does for you. That's one of the reasons I like it so much. And then finally played into Hendrickson. Very normal game. He couldn't find a second Hendrickson at the end. So he came up well short trying to close me. And then I just turned around and closed him because he was at 3 and I had double Ilalu. And I think I had stock swap. The goal is kind of triple Ilalu in this list. But if you get double Ilalu with stock swap or double Ilalu with the Icy Tail, that's oftentimes better. But you play with, you play with your numbers a little bit, and you try to keep your flexibility up so that you can respond to whatever. And that's one of the things that Dragon Maid does really well is your fixing's perfect. Because you run 4 copies of the CX Stitch Salvage and you're running 8 bar. And that CX Stitch Salvage jumps back into your hand when you slam a CX. So you give perfect fixing all game long. Go get whatever you want. Very easy to get your event off of your combo because it's top check 3, add anything, and your opponent has no idea. So your opponent, they can see a stock swap in the waiting room and think, oh, there's their stock swap. Your second copy is just chilling in your hand. So it's very easy to get your stuff in Dragon Maid. It's super consistent. I did not brick any of my 7 rounds. I had one game that didn't go great. It was the game against Kanatamari, the second game, where I was missing a couple of things. But even then, I didn't fully brick because Dragon Maid very rarely bricks. It doesn't happen much, especially now. It used to be that you were playing a lot more tech stuff to try to get around stuff. Like back in the Alice meta, Dragon Maid was very good because it had stuff that dealt specifically with Alice that you would play into, and it had other stuff that dealt specifically with Neg Souls. And you can play around tap counters, and like you can play around Neg Soul counters, and like there's so much stuff. There's blinking to get rid of power on the board, get rid of markers. So you would play all this tech stuff back a couple years ago. This is the list that I finished fourth in Rumble with. And in that list, it was very teched out. You're playing matchups, right? You know your matchups, and you know what tech you need for those matchups, and you play into it. Nowadays, you're playing the hand to stock because what matchups matter, right? Like it doesn't matter if you can blink something. It doesn't matter like if you can get over a big level 2 really, other than in the slime matchup. But even then, I don't care that much. I just want to do the damage, you know? Especially because I'm not really all that scared of slime's top end if I'm still, not in level 3 yet. So the the deck has changed to be very min max on leaning all the way into its combo as opposed to being more responsive. But because it is that, and you have all this fixing, you almost never whiff that top end. You almost always get 2 Ilulu plus something. And yeah, I just think that it's really good at what it does. This is probably, and I said this last time that I played it, this is probably the real last hurrah for Dragon Maid because I think that the new stuff, Nikkei in particular, is just going to be so much more powerful. And it's basically the same archetype as this. It's put all your eggs into this stupidly powerful top end. So it's very similar to Dragon Maid, just with even crazier numbers. So I think that this is probably it for Dragon Maid, but I've said that in the past. I still think it's good. And we went 5-2, and we beat 3 of the best decks in the meta on the day, where we went 3-2 against Hololive Slime SDS. So like the top 3 sets in the meta, we went 3-2 against them. So I'm not going to complain. I was very happy with how the deck performed. I still love this list.
Absolutely. And I think you should be, because like realistically, I think going 5-2 in the largest regional to date with Dragon Maid, I think is a pretty good accomplishment. So
I'm happy with it. Play the stuff you like. Play the stuff you like. You're going to have way more fun, and it's going to feel way more satisfying when you do well. But yeah, I think that's it for us. We'll be back next week with, I think, a deck tech, Brandon. Is that the plan?
we'll have something.
Fair enough. We'll have a video next week, and then in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about more tournaments. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.